Hello, happy people, and welcome to a new Cambridge Delta session on prominence and intonation. For this session, you're going to download the handout below and follow the instructions in this video as you go along. We're going to start our session with a little activity. On your screens, you can now see a very common expression. I would like you to say it to yourselves so that it matches the emotions depicted in two pictures that I'm going to show you. Let's have a go. Can you say it so that it matches the feeling in this picture? And now, can you say it so that it matches the feeling in this picture? Do you notice any difference? Now, have a think. What is the relationship between intonation and meaning? You've probably heard a lot about the attitudinal aspect of intonation. But what does that mean exactly? Well, one of the most natural ways of conveying meaning is through intonation. As we saw in the previous activity, we can use the same exponent to express two different emotions and therefore two different meanings. This is particularly important for extreme emotions, which depend very much on intonation and sometimes not on language at all. Intonation helps us deliver messages of utmost subtlety, which means that even the slightest change of movement has the ability to alter meaning. This is the difference between saying, "Oh, great," and "Oh, great." However, intonation is also an area that has a lot of terminology associated with it. In the next part of our session, we're going to have a look at some of the terms associated with intonation. Things like pitch, range, tone, movement, onset and tonic syllables, tone unit, and rhythm. Take a moment to decide on rough definitions for the terms above. You may want to take notes, or you can leave your answers in the comments below. Welcome back, happy people. Now, I would like to invite you to open your handouts on page 3. There you will find the definitions for the terms on your screens. How close were your definitions? Take a moment to read through them, and then we're going to do some practice. All right, happy people. What have we learned so far? We have the following utterance. She lives in London. We know that this is a tone unit. A tone unit is usually represented graphically through double slashes. So the green slashes indicate when the tone unit starts and when it ends. We also have an onset syllable. This is highlighted in blue. So in our tone unit, lives is the onset syllable. That is the stressed syllable before the tonic syllable, which is highlighted in purple. So lives is the onset syllable, lon is the tonic syllable. Let's find out how we can analyze this tone unit further. And I've got some questions for you. How many syllables are there between the tonic syllable, lon, and the end of the tone unit? Well done. This is called the tail. What's the first stressed syllable in this tone unit? Well done. The number of syllables between the first stressed syllable and the tonic syllable is called the head. In our example, the head is comprised of the onset syllable and in. So lives in, lives in. That's our head. And finally, are there any unstressed syllables before the first stressed syllable? Well done. This is called the prehead. Let's do some practice. Here we have another tone unit. We're going to invite you to go to page 4, revise the definitions for prehead, head, tonic syllable, and tail, and try to identify these terms in the given tone unit. There may be many possibilities for the prehead, head, tonic syllable, and tail in this utterance, in this tone unit, but I would like you to try it with this particular intonation. I thought it was Jane you wanted to marry. I thought it was Jane you wanted to marry. One more time. But I thought it was Jane you wanted to marry. Have a go at this. In the utterance, in this tone unit, as I've said it, what are the prehead, the head, the tonic syllable, and the tail? See you in a bit. Welcome back, happy people. In this utterance, in this tone unit, as I've said it, but I thought it was Jane you wanted to marry, the tonic syllable is Jane. The tail is you wanted to marry. You wanted to marry. The head is thought it was. Thought it was. Because thought is the first stressed syllable in this utterance. So the head is the number of syllables between the first stressed syllable and the tonic syllable, which means that anything before that is called the prehead. Batai, batai. So that's the analysis of the tone unit for this particular utterance. But I thought it was Jane you wanted to marry. This analysis may change depending on what the tonic syllable is and the message that we are trying to convey. Compare, but I thought it was Jane you wanted to marry, to, but I thought it was Jane you wanted to marry. The previous exercise showed us that the movement patterns in intonation may vary. However, moving forward, we're going to find out what these movement patterns are. Technically, there are 4 movement patterns when it comes to intonation: fall, rise, and rise, fall. Here is an activity for you. Here you have some of the more common movement patterns as we see them in specific utterances, like statements, WH questions seeking information, tag questions, commands closing a list, and so on. This activity is really simple. You have from 1 to 13 different utterances that correspond to the particular movement pattern. On the right side, you have some examples. Try to match the examples to the correct utterance from 1 to 13. For this exercise, you can go to page 5, have a look at the exercise there, and try to match the utterances to the correct example. Welcome back, happy people. Here are the answers to the previous task. You can also find these on page 7 in your handout. So what we have here are 3 intonation patterns: fall, rise, and fall, rise, with the mention that the fall, rise is actually more common, and rise, fall. The fall pattern, for example, is found in statements like he got there yesterday, or WH question seeking information. Where did she go? Tag questions expecting agreement. He's ridiculous, isn't he? An interesting aspect of intonation is actually the connection between tones and meaning. I'm going to focus specifically on 2 tones, 2 movement patterns. That's the fall and the fall rise. The fall tone is also called the proclaiming tone, This one elicits new information, whereas the fall-rise tone is the referring tone. That's about knowledge shared between speaker and listener. Any stretch of discourse, whether it is written or spoken, is a carefully balanced interplay between new information and what we call given information. That's knowledge shared between speaker and listener, for example, in spoken discourse. The tones help us keep this balance between new information, using the proclaiming tone, and given information, using the referring tone. That's information that we already know, referring, versus information that is new or newly introduced, proclaiming. So now that we know this distinction, have a look at the statements and questions below. I've marked down the intonation patterns, and I would like you to take a moment to explain how this distinction between the proclaiming tone and the referring tone applies to these statements. For example, let's do the first one together. The first tone, the fall tone, this is a proclaiming tone because this is new information. The fact that the cake is dry is new information. This cake, with the fall-rise tone, this is the referring tone because this cake is given information. We both know which cake we are referring to, but what the listener may not know is the speaker thinks that it's a bit dry. Now you have a look at 2, 3, and 4. What is the difference between the proclaiming tone and the referring tone in these particular statements? Welcome back, happy people. Let's have a look at number 2. Mike, and the fact that Mike came to work, is given information. That's why we use the referring tone. This is already knowledge shared between the speakers and the listeners. How did he look? This is new information. We are requesting new information about a person that we both know. Can I get you something to drink? We are using the proclaiming tone here because we want to elicit new information. I don't know what you want to drink, so I'm asking you for the information. Similarly, could you do me a favor? I am trying to elicit or introduce new information in the conversation, which is the favor that only I know about for now and that you're going to find out. So this is the distinction between the proclaiming tone for new information and the referring tone for given information. All right, happy people, time to reflect on what we've learned today. What is one thing that you've learned from this session? You can type your answers in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, happy people, and I hope to see you in our next Delta session.
Like and subscribe.